welcome back. So we're here, NBA season right around the corner. So definitely getting excited for that. Heat fan. So watching preseason, I'm real interested to see what Khalil Ware does. He's been looking really good. I think he can get most improved player of the year if he looks like how he does in this preseason. So I know last year when he went up against Wemby, he had a good game. And he also had a good game another night. So, watching the Locked On Heat podcast, now there's speculations. Do you trade Bam if Ware becomes, if he takes that next step? Do you go trade Bam and try to go get, a superstar? So, don't want to lose Bam, but at the same time, depending, if you get someone like a Giannis per se, not saying that would happen, but I'd be okay with that. So, I love Bam. I hope he does retire at Miami Heat, but, if you have to go swing for Giannis, then you kind of got to make that move. So definitely excited. I'm really ready to see what Luka does with the Lakers this year. No LeBron for the first month. Luka was one of my MVP candidates last year, and unfortunately that didn't really work out. So hoping for a big bounce back season for Luka this year with the Lakers with no LeBron to kind of establish himself with that first month. So I think that's going to be my early MVP candidate. I'm thinking it's going to be him and Jokic. I think Jokic should have won it last year, man. Looking at his stats, getting that triple-double as a center, I think he was shooting over 50. He was shooting almost 60% from the field. And I think he was also shooting over 40% from three, averaging triple-double, and didn't get MVP. So, if he puts those numbers up again, it's hard not to give him MVP. And we might have to start putting him, up there and probably, top 5 all time if he does get this another MVP, averaging another triple-double. So really excited for the NBA season, man. The East is wide open, so I'm really excited to see what the East is going to do. I honestly think that the Knicks may dominate the East this year due to so many injuries and just the lack of talent in the East compared to the West. I really do think that the Knicks is really going to run away with it. I also don't sleep on the Magic either. The Magic snuck into what I think they were a top 5 seed last year. So don't sleep on the Magic either. Pablo and them boys, they got Desmond Bane. That may be a sneaky pickup because Desmond Bane, he shoots a 3 ball. So and he can get a bucket off the dribble. So adding that with the young talent and the young core that the Magic have in the East, I think they can definitely make some noise. But we're going to go ahead, switch gears a little bit. We're going to start getting to the finance thing. So today, I'm really going to make a video on what I believe in both a 9 to 5 and why I believe entrepreneurship. So I believe that you can build wealth through either or. Again, it just goes back to your habits and understanding what goes into each of them. So this is going to be a 2-parter. This one I'm really focused on the 9 to 5 side. My next video, I'm going to focus on the entrepreneurial side and some things I experienced as we have our candle business. So gold just hit 4K now for the first time in history. So gold is on the rise, due to this government shutdown and the new escalated tensions. Man, it's been a crazy day with China. It's been a crazy couple of days. So Friday, stocks started to sink. We got reports on Monday saying, we're really, we're de-escalating the trade war, and then Monday China hits back. So that with the government shutdown, the Fed's not able to release any data or reports. It's going to be a shaky road next couple of weeks. Definitely interested to see what comes out of this. But hey, again, this is a buying opportunity. So if you saw, what I was posting earlier throughout the week and late last week, is that if you wanted to get in with $1,000, put $250 in on Friday, the market went up. Now you see the market's going back down. Today is the day I'd probably put in another $150, so whatever you had to decide, right? Whatever you feel comfortable putting in. Because again, you don't know how far the market's going to tank, but you still want to get in, at these prices because, I think it was at 619 was the high on the S&P, and right now it's hovering around 600 for VOO. So, there's definitely some room to improve, and how, S&P, VOO over the history of time, it automatically goes back up. So, right now it is pain, but in 5 years, it will make you money. So that's usually how it goes. So right now it's short-term pain for long-term comfort. And that's why you have to be mentally ready and prepared for moments like this, situations like this. It always happens throughout the history. We all have risk that's involved with this. So we all understand, getting into this, we all understand the risk of it, or at least I hope you understand the risk of it. Bitcoin hit 125 and then also dipped, kind of how I was saying. So again, it's just something to keep an eye on, something to monitor. Really interested to see, but if you're looking to buy in, you need some buying opportunities. Good time to buy in is right now. And we're going to go ahead and start the video. Disclaimer: the information provided on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered as financial advice. We are not licensed financial professionals, and any opinions shared are based on personal experiences and research. As always, do your own due diligence and consult with a certified financial advisor or professional before making any investment decisions. One thing I really never understood is why people really try to talk down to those with a 9 to 5. A 9 to 5 can still build you wealth. A 9 to 5 can have predictable income, which I'm going to go over here in a minute. So, I really don't understand, when people talk down on 9 to 5s, because you need 9 to 5s just how you need, entrepreneurs. So to me, they're equally as important to keep the economy moving. A 9 to 5, like I said, that can provide you steady income, whether that's weekly or bi-weekly, and that's predictable income. Now that you have predictable income, this should make it easier for you to create a budget or start a budget, adjust your budget, right? So to have the budget in general, because now you know exactly what you're getting every week or every 2 weeks. 9 to 5 can have benefit packages like a 401k, right? So, you hear me talk about 401k throughout the channel because it's a very powerful tool if you think about it. So let's just say your company even matches like 4%, 5%, right? So you match that. So you put in your 4 to 5, they put in their 4 to 5. So your money goes in, and then your employer's money goes into the market. So on top of that, it's going to grow over time with the compound interest. So your employer is basically giving you free money. So a lot of people will say, you can't, this is something that you can't call your own, right? This isn't yours, you're making someone else rich. While this is true, at the end of the day, being an entrepreneur really is not for everyone. There's a lot of work that goes into being an entrepreneur, and it isn't easy, right? So every day comes with its own challenge. Every day comes with learning something new, and just like anything, what you put in is what you're going to get out of it. So if you don't feel like you're not putting your fullest into, your side hustle or your business, you're not going to get your full potential out of it. So that's why it's not for everyone, because it's constant work on top of having your 9 to 5 in most cases, right? So yes, it's something that you can't call your own, but again, you define yourself. Your company does not define you, right? So you can still build skills. You can still build wealth through these companies. You just have to find the right companies, which comes with doing research. Yes, it's not something that you can sit there and say, take pride in. You physically made that, but you can make a lot of good. You can make a lot of good things, a lot of impact in a 9 to 5. You can still help others within a 9 to 5. So to me, it's all about building your career and, doing what you need to do to make sure that you're building your wealth as well, which starts with, that discipline and making sure that you are matching that 401k. So again, like, just because you're working for a 9 to 5, you're investing into them. If you have a good company with those amazing benefit packages, because they are out there, again, you just have to do your research, and you may have to relocate. That's what I had to do. I had to relocate to get to the 9 to 5 I'm at now, right? So, that's the risk that I took, and that wasn't my first job when I relocated. I did my research. I had a buddy say, hey, look at this place. I applied, and the rest is history. So, you still, even though that you're putting your time into this, your company can give you benefits that you can take and you can add to your own skill set, right? Your company can give you benefits that we're going to talk about later in the video. So right now we're going to go over some financial facts about a 9 to 5. So I watched the Money Guy show. I actually read the book, really good book. The fact that I got from the Money Guy show is that 401ks are usually the first accounts and investment accounts to hit $1 million, right? So Yes, there's a form of 401k for entrepreneurs, but we're talking about 9 to 5 here. So if you have a 9 to 5, 401ks are usually the first account. Why is that? Kind of how what I said earlier in the video. You put your own money in, you get the free money from your employer. If you match that, and on top of that, you go with the growth in the market with the compound interest. So there is your road to your first $1 million account. You just have to remain disciplined and make sure that you are accepting that match. Life happens, things happen, right? So it's a long road, but lower the match as like a last resort if you absolutely have to. But try to get used to matching your 401k and living off of that. Because like I said, it's the first account that can get you to $1 million. More people become a millionaire than you think through a 9 to 5. Like, there's a lot of people who, you got 10% of people, I think, who you're a millionaire, you're in like the top 10% in the US, right? So, that's still pretty good amount of people that walk around as a millionaire. 1%, the 1%ers is a little different, but once you hit that 10%, that's a good chunk of people walking through the US sitting as a millionaire. Going back to, the Ramsey survey I did in my last episode, right? So about a third of those who took the millionaire survey never earned six figures, right? So again, they never earned six figures in a single year. They were able to build that wealth through their discipline, through their 401k. Now they also had to put in different avenues. Maybe they put it into stocks. Maybe they put it into crypto if you're a believer of crypto. Like I said, gold just hit its all-time high, and it's going to looks like it's continued to climb. So, real estate, especially if you bought during COVID or before COVID, your property value definitely went up. If you have a small business, if you're building that over time. And one thing that you need to continue to invest into outside of your 401k and everything I just mentioned is yourself. You still want to build skills. You still want to build knowledge. You still want to have an open mindset. You don't want to ever go into this thinking you know everything, because you'll be humbled real quick. So you will be humbled real quick. So it's important, that you keep yourself open-minded and that you keep yourself aware of what's going on and continue to educate yourself, because you never know where you may go. Keep building those skills. So again, a 9 to 5, it can make you a billionaire or close to it. These things go back to being consistent, disciplined, and utilizing your employer benefits if you are in that 9 to 5. All right, so I did a quick Google search, and I was just looking like, what are some benefits that companies offer? Like, what are some really good benefits that companies can offer? Obviously, you got your medical insurance, vision, and dental. But then I start looking deeper. Of course, you got your retirement accounts, as like your 401ks. You have development programs, so you may have college programs. Your employer may have type of bonuses, or you may get like a sales performance. You may have, they may have life insurance, FSA accounts. You may get PTO, paid holidays. Your job may have a daycare. You may be able to get short-term, long-term disability. May have a gym, which improves your health, which lowers your medical bills over time. Pension, medical reimbursement. Help you build a network within yourself with those who are around you, because there's a lot of people at a 9 to 5 that have a lot of skills, right? So just because you're at a 9 to 5, there's a lot of people who are at a 9 to 5 that don't use their college degree or what they went to school for, right? But they still have that skill, and they can still utilize that skill. So that's a good way to build your personal network, by just being personable with those, with your peers, because it's really underrated what your peers can do for you, and everyone has a little different of something that they bring to the table within a 9 to 5, right? So, you got to keep that in mind too. So make sure that you're also trying to build that network, because you never know who you may run into. You can utilize basically most, if not all, of these benefits throughout your career. This can help you save thousands of dollars over time. You don't believe me? Look at a bill without medical insurance compared to medical insurance if you went to the hospital or you even called an ambulance, right? So that right there alone is saving you hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars right there alone. So depending on your company, they'll reward you with certain benefits, right? So that's why your company don't define you, you define yourself. Represent yourself. on how you would want to be represented, if you're running your own business, right? So, keep that in mind. Build yourself up. The 9 to 5, yeah, they want you come in, they want you put in the work. But if they're offering these like programs, they're offering these learning courses, they're offering like college and things like that, why not take advantage of it while you have it? Because if you're building a career out of this 9 to 5, you're going to be there for a while anyway. So you might as well use some of the perks and benefits that comes with it. It just takes a little effort on your end. It's not easy to do, but at the end of the day, it will be rewarding. Just getting to your goals, your ultimate goals, is not supposed to be easy. And if it is easy, then you probably want to look in the mirror and see and reevaluate, right? So none of it's supposed to be easy, but if you can really, just dial in and, just start investing into yourself, that will take you much further than any 9 to 5 can take you. All right, again. So we talked about the 9 to 5. I still think I'm a believer of, again, 9 to 5 and being an entrepreneur. Have a small business on top of working on 9 to 5 myself. It's a lot of work that goes into both. A lot of dedication that goes into both. But you can use the 9 to 5 to also fuel your side hustle and your future as well. So keep that in mind. So, one thing I can do is I always can lean back on my 9 to 5 once I get to a certain point if I do need to, right? I can fuel my side business with that. I can start up another side business with that, right? Or I can invest into something. 9 to 5, your income and time is two powerful tools that you have, and you want to utilize both, right? So your income and your time, those are the most two powerful tools you have when it comes to investing. So as long as you can stay disciplined, stay locked in, understand your risk, understand what you can invest in to make sure that you're not crippling yourself now, it can take you a long way. So don't sleep on having a 9 to 5. And if you aren't using those benefit packages, go ahead and reach out and look into, what your job may offer. You may be surprised. So that is all. Thank you for today. Thank you guys all for the support. Like I said, next week, we're going to focus really on the entrepreneur side and kind of what I learned throughout those past couple of years.